Very well, and welcome to the class explanation video for Golden Sun. Today we will just take a look at the class system in Golden Sun and how you can use it to your advantage to do whatever you want. So before we begin talking about the classes, you need to understand the four elements. In Golden Sun we have four elements. We have earth, fire, wind, and water. And these elements have relationships with each other. We already know that earth is opposite to wind, fire is opposite to water. That much we know. We've seen it throughout the whole game. That's how it works. But there are also other relationships. For example, earth is symbiotic to fire, wind is symbiotic to water. And you're gonna need to know this, because that's what you need to know when you set up advanced classes. By exclusion, there's also a third relationship, which is earth is neutral to water and fire is neutral to wind, but you don't need to know this. You can look at this scheme right here. This is how it works, but all you need to remember is earth and wind are opposites, fire and water are opposite, earth and fire are symbiotic, wind and water are symbiotic. That's all you need to remember. It's not that hard. It just takes a bit of memory. Once you know this, once you got this in your mind, now you can set up your classes. Or we should talk less about classes and more about classes tiers. Because they're really classes tiers, not really classes. Because, for example, Isaac is now a lord, but if I unset all his djinnis, he's a squire. Now that's his main class. Squire is the class, but if I get two djinni here, he becomes a knight, then a gallant, and then a lord, and this is the class tier. It tiers up, because as you've seen through the Let's Plays, if you've seen it, if we go from squire to knight, see all the stats go up. It's kind of like saying the class is leveling up from squire to a knight. Then we go to a gallant, as you can see, even more stats. It's going up the tier that is the squire tier of classes, and then it becomes a lord. And there's also another level after lord, but we can't get it right now. We need more djinni. That can only be done in the second game, but you get the idea. We talk more about class tiers than actual classes. And then we need to make another separation, I guess, or like division, or like, I don't know. We need to classify the classes even more. We have monoelemental classes, dualelemental classes, trielemental classes, and in the second game we also have tetraelemental or item dependent, but it's beyond the scope of our game, or I mean, it's beyond the scope of today, and they're very easy too. So we're gonna focus on monoelemental, dualelemental, and trielemental. So monoelemental classes are what you're seeing right now. All the djinnis of one element go to the adept of the same element. So all earth on Isaac, all fire on Garrett, all wind on Ivan, and all water on Mia. Those are the monoelemental classes. There are no other classes. So there really is only one class tier per monoelemental. We got, let me actually do this. The squire tier for Isaac, the guard tier for Garrett, the wind tier for Ivan, and the water tier for Mia. These are the only four monoelemental classes there are. There are no others. So what do these classes do? Well, if we go back to the status screen, we can check down here the power and resistance that we have for each element. Now we'll take Isaac as an example. Isaac has very high power and very high resistance in earth, because he has 7 djinni worth of earth. Doesn't have a lot in water, fire, and wind. So his earth power is going to be very strong. All this synergy of earth are going to be very strong, very effective. At the same time, he will resist earth very well, but all the other elements, not so much. Okay, right now he's weak to fire, because he's got 86, that's the lowest amount he has. And even in power, like, it doesn't really matter on power, because if you look at the elements that he can cast, he can only cast earth anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We have this one, but this is the only exception. Move is fire, but we don't care. Like, all of his offensive ones are earth. So really, he's gonna do a lot of damage because he has he has 139 Earth power. The only problem is, like, in defensive-wise, he's going to suck kind of a lot on the other 3 elements that are not Earth. But you know, you trade that for a lot of resistance to Earth. That's all. That's the class, more or less. The stats are... the Monoelemental classes usually puts the character in what they are, I guess. Isaac is more of a physical attacker with some support. Like, he's got some heals. Not really a lot of PP and goodish amount of HP. If you look on Guard here, Guard is more like a tanky guy. Not a lot of PP, a lot of HP, and a lot of defense and attack. Ivan is like a mage, more PP and less elf defense and attack, but a lot of agility because he's got like 222. Isaac has got 203, but he might have some additional things on it, and 144 here. But yeah, Ivan very fast, low PP, low HP, a lot of PP, and a lot of course, of wind power. And Mia's gonna be the healer, so it's kind of like Ivan, but with a bit more HP and PP, good-ish agility right now, not a lot. And some synergy that has, like, she can have some offensive one. She'll have the heal, she'll have the support like pure poison, restore, and some offensive one like frost, thunder, and stuff like that. But only 1 element is allowed per adept in Monoelemental classes. So let's summing all of this up. Monoelemental, easy to set up. Oh, there's also something more. If you use the Djinnis, you will just downgrade to lower classes. Well, if you use the Djinni in battles, you will just go down classes. It's so, and the what you can use doesn't really change too much. All right, so now let's do a recap. Monoelemental classes, easy to set up. They're gonna have 1 element worth of synergy, which is gonna be very strong due to you having all the Djinn of 1 element. And like, you can use the Djinni quite easily because you don't really get downgraded too much while you do that. And the cons are that pulling out big summons is gonna take forever, right? Because it's gonna take a maximum 4 turns, at minimum 4 turns to do a level 4 summon. Because like Isaac can do 1, 2, 3 turns. On the 4th turn he can do this, and then Guard, suppose he's lower, he can pull out the summon. But if you want Isaac to do it, because he's the Earth one, he's gonna have to do 5 turns. Like on the 5th turn, he's gonna use his summon. That is, of course, if you start the fight with all the Djinni set, which you should. Another con is the characters are monodimensional. They only have 1 element, so they can only use that. They have low resistance to all the other elements, and that can be not good. That can be something that you may not want. It depends. It depends on your playstyle, really. There are no wrong classes in Golden Sun. Every class is okay, really. Because you can play with these classes, you can get through the game. I've done it many times, no problem. Really, the class is more about what you want. It's more like a playstyle thing, okay? There are no wrong classes. There are only wrong ways of doing things after you've in battle. But really, every class is fine. Now that we're talking about Monoelemental, let's go a step further. Dualelemental. We're gonna take Isaac as an example. How do you do a Dualelemental class? Well, we've kind of seen it more or less. How you do it? We're gonna stand by everything though. Just that, not like that. There you go. Stand by everything. So I'm gonna pass over to Isaac a bunch of fire Djinni. Like that. Okay, so if we set one of these guys, Isaac becomes a brute. This is a Dualelemental class. It is earth and fire. If you take a look at the status, maybe from over here, you'll see he's got some fire as well. Look at that. Mad Grove, this is earth, but then we were Blast and Nova that are fire. We got Hunt. We got a bunch of other things. And to level up in this class, all you gotta do is give more Djinni of this element. For example, in this case, it's fire. So we do another one and becomes a Ruffian. Then he goes to still Ruffian. Savage. He learns some synergy as well. Barbarian. And as you can see, these last 2 Djinni don't level them up. This was the last one, I think. Yeah. In order to level up further in this class, you're gonna need 1 earth and 1 fire. And now he goes a berserker. And there's another level, but we need another earth and another fire. Right now we can't do it because we only have 7 djinni per character. But now Isaac is in one of his Dualelemental class tiers. In the, I think it was the, well, what was the base one? I forgot. What was the base? The base was the Brute. That's the Brute class tier. So let's take a look at his status now. Now, I really can't tell you what the Dualelemental classes do in terms of statistics. You kind of have to look at it. Some will give a lot of attack, like this one gives a lot of HP, because he didn't have 500 HP before, right? He didn't. This is a class that gives a lot of attack and HP. It's a very DPS class. But other cards are different classes. You kind of have to see what each class gives to them, and then figure out what you want to do. If you look down here, as you can see now, we got some power in earth, some power in fire, less than the other two, but we have some resistance as well. So we trade off some resistance to earth to get some resistance to fire. And of course that makes sense because now we can, I mean, we have different synergy as well. We got like planet diver spire, we got some earth, we got some fire. So we're kind of mixing things up, okay, to get more variety. We can do the same on guard, and he gets pretty much the same thing, except he does it with earth instead of fire, but he gets kind of the same things, but not really. I think he gets more or less the same things. If you take a look at them, let's see. Yeah, they are kind of have the same stats, but not really because of equipment and stuff like that, but you get the idea. Like, we can do it on Ivan as well and Mia by giving them by switching the djinnis like that. And like that. So now Ivan will do his water elemental dual class. He gets Hermit, then Elder, then Scholar, then Savant, and then a Sage. And same thing we're gonna do with Mia. She also becomes a Sage. They get party heals, they have some attacks, they have some support like Bind, High Impact, and other stuff. And I think Mia will have pretty much the same. Notice, I used the djinnis of the element the Adepts are symbiotic with. So on Isaac I used Fire, on Garrett I used Earth, on Ivan Water, and on Mia Wind. Those classes kind of level up a bit differently than if you use other elements. Like, for example, I'll set everything. Let's do something a bit different. Let's do Water on Isaac. See how that plays out. So you can see kind of what happens. I'm not going to do it for all characters, but just to give you an idea. And missed. There we go. So, Water on Isaac. We'll give it the Swordsman class tier. Has Cutting Edge, which is a single target. Water. Thornbriar Revive. He only needs 1 djinni of water to learn Revive, and a certain level, of course. You also need that, but the idea is that the basic Swordsman class can learn Revive like that. Then he goes a Defender, he gets some heals, and he gets a Void, as we've seen in a past episode. Then he becomes a Cavalier. He gets the party heals. Nice. And then he becomes a Shaman. Now here, there's something different. Here, things start to change a little bit. So you can get to a Shaman and learn that. You learn some single heals and some other offensive ones. And then that's it. However, if we take a Earth djinni, it becomes a Guardian. And that's more like what it was before. See, he had this set: Cutting Edge, Thorn, Briar, Plywell, Avoid. If we give him, if we take out this djinni, it becomes this other class, a Shaman, which is a bit different, okay? It's a kind of a partial dual elemental. It's kind of weird, all right? But again, look at the stats, see what they do, see what synergies they give you. Like in this case, a Shaman would make a good healer, because if we set that, it will have the single healers of Play Well, Wish Well, Revive. Oh, sorry, wait. Yeah, we set that, right? Yeah, it would be a good healer, a good support. But taking this out, we'll give him Cure Well. It would still make a good healer. You will have some different synergies. Again, it's all about what you want. It's all about the stats. It's all about the elemental resistances. Let me show you Wind as well, since we're at it, so you can see kind of how it goes. Let's show you Wind, and we can do it for all characters, really. Like let's do one with Water on Guard as well, so you kind of see where that leads to. Although it leads to similar. Now you know what? I will do something on Ivan. Let's do Water on Ivan. Let's see what he gets. Because Water on Guard, it kind of does the same thing that Weyard did to Isaac, sorry. Okay, we'll do something like that. And we gave it Love back. Thank you. Let's look at Wind on Isaac first. Becomes an apprentice. Astral Blast, Gaia, Weaken and Feeble, kind of weird. Astral Blast is a wind synergy that attacks one. Delude, Sleep, and Haunting Curse are not really that great, but you know what? You can get those things. Illusionist. Enchanter. Impact and Impact are very nice. And then he becomes this. This is another of those weird partial classes I told you before. It's like the Shaman of before. Well, is this the same Shaman? It's the same Shaman, but it's got different synergies now. Because he's got those flash bolts. Before he had like the Fraud Sphere, the water ones. But yeah, this is another one of those partial classes that is just kind of weird. We gave that the Djinni of Earth, and he just levels up to what? Sorry? To a Conjurer. And he keeps the Astral Blast, the Gaia synergies and stuff. And he gets all of those. Let's look at Ivan as another example for a dual class. Okay, then what? An Elder. Then what? Nothing. Then to a Scholar. Wish and Wish Well. Then to a Savant. Now he's going... If I set this, what's going to happen? Partial class. Not quite. He's a bit different. Gotta attack every character. And then he becomes, well, I think it's if I give him this. Let's see. No, not quite. Okay, so he needs a Wind anyway. And this will level him up to a Sage. Nice. Again, check every character. Not all characters are the same, but they mostly are. Like we can try, even try Fire on him. See if he's gonna find some weird partial class here. Aesthetic. Fire Monk. Oh wait, we have this set and go. Aesthetic. Yeah, there it is. Look, Enchanter. This is another weird partial class. Changes a lot of his synergies that he has right now. We set Love, and suddenly we got back to a Fire Monk, which is the progression of the class, the real progression of the class that he started with. So, as a recap for Dualelemental, how do you set them up? You give one element that is not the element of the Adept. You can go all the way up to 6. The 7 has to be an element of the Djinn of the same element. Otherwise, you might end up with a partial class that's kind of weird. But you know, you can actually use it, no problem, if you like it. And that's that. Dualelemental have certain statistics they're good at and some others that are not. You got 2 element of synergies, which gives you variety. If you set up something like this, which is a very common thing, I'll show you real quick. There's very good, easy to set up. If you want to play around with some Dualelemental is where you can start with. I'll show you in a sec. Because you're spreading out the djinnis a lot more, you can pull out summons a bit faster. I'll show you how. Okay, we switch these guys too. This goes here. This is a very good combination. For example, you have two characters that have that planet diver, which is very nice against if you like against something that is weak to fire. And these guys have buff party heals. Wish and wish well. Both of these adepts have it. You can have two characters with party heals. Hey, it's pretty good, right? This is very easy to set up too. And you can, for example, turn 1 you can do Flash Torch. They're in Barbarian, so they still have their thing. Then turn 2 you can do like, I don't know, Ember. You can do like Ember Ground. Turn 3 you can do... Jesus Christ. Give me... You can do Scorch, and then you can pull out a Fire Summon, for example. You get 3 turns instead of 4 or 5. You can pull out someone a little bit faster, and you could spread out the Djinni a bit more. You can do this, for example, I don't know. And there will still be barbarians, a bit less stats maybe, but you can like do level turn 1, Flash and Torch, turn 2, Ember and Forge, and then turn 3 you just go out with a summon. Or if one of these guys is lower, you could just pull out your summon on level 4 summon on turn 2. Play around with it, see what works and see what doesn't. The one thing you need to be careful of, especially when you're playing like this, is like, for example, if I use Forge here, or no, sorry, if I use Ground, or wait, no, is it if I use, like, for example, I use Flash, right? Turn after that, I use Ground. Sorry, I need to figure this out. They're not easy. Okay, I use Ground. Like, you have to be careful not to go into a class that you don't want. The penalties for leveling down classes in Dualelemental are much harsher than the Monoelemental version. And if you do some weird setups, you can end up with weird classes that you don't want. Not in this case, but we'll see it better when we move to Trielemental. Speaking of which, Trielemental. How do you do 3 elementals? Well, it's not that hard. First, you take the element that the adept is symbiotic with. That's why we need to know who is symbiotic to what. So, in this case, you will take something like this. You take fire here, earth here, water here, and wind here. Okay, so you take that, the element that they're symbiotic with, and then you take some djinni of that and some djinni of another element that is not the element that they have. So, for example, Isaac, he is earth, so he gets fire. He does not get earth. He gets either water or wind. So we put in water. Let me do big of like that, so you can see the progression. We give him water, and at this point, do you want more water or more fire? Well, because he's earth and he's symbiotic to fire, you already got some fire in it. That's the idea. So you do less fire and more of the other element. So in this case, Isaac, if I set everything, is going to be in his water 3 elemental class. How does that progress? Well, first of all, we set this and he goes to Swordman. This is Dualelemental. We already seen it. We set this, doesn't change. We set this, does not change. We're still in the Dualelemental. We're still leveling up in that one. We're still leveling up Dualelemental. We set this, not change. Now when we set our 6th djinni, when we have 3 and 3, then it goes into Trielemental. You need 3 and 3 djinni in order, 6 in total, to get your 3rd element, your 3 elemental classes. This is a Dragoon, and you cannot... There are no, like, lower tiers. This is the base. 3 elemental classes require you to have at least 6 djinni worth of elements. In this case, we got Cutting Edge, which is water, Thorn and Briar, which are earth, Blast and Mad Blast are fire. So we already have 3 elements. We got some single target heals, some party heals, some support, and some pretty good stats. The 3 elementals have 3 elementals worth of synergy, pretty good stats. I can set Fizz as well, but this gives you the idea. If you take a fire and do this, see, we're going back to Savage. We're going back to the Dualelemental. So remember, it's gotta be less of the symbiotic and more of the other element. How about we check wind? It's the only other element we're allowed to use in place of water. So we'll do Isaac's wind third element, 3 elemental. The first 2 djinni don't do anything. We're still in Ruffian, as you can see, still in the fire dual elemental. Let's reset this. We'll be a ninja now. So Isaac gets Death Plunge, which is a single target wind. Shuriken, I think it's single target. Punzi and Punzi Trap are Earth, Fire Bomb, Cluster Bomb are Fire. And then he's got Gale and Typhoon, which are all wind. And a little bit of an interesting thing about this class, Gale actually can be used in the field, and that's Whirlwind. It does the same thing, can be used the same way. So yeah, if you want to do it, it's there. But yeah, again, look at the stats for these classes. Like the dual class, look at the stats, see what they give you, see what they don't give you, and see if you like them. But the big thing about Trielemental is that, if I can show it, you have 3 elements of resistances and power. You're trading a bit of your like Earth from the Monoelemental to get some power also in other elements, but most importantly to get your resistances more spread out. And usually, again, I'll repeat that, 3 elemental classes have pretty good stats, especially when you can get them to their higher tiers. And which we can't right now, this is just the base tier, the ninja, but in the second game we'll be able to get the higher tier. Because we would need 2 more djinni, we would need 1 more fire, 1 more wind. Care has to be taken while you use these classes. Why? Because if you use just 1 fire, you'll go back to a dual elemental class. This is the wind dual elemental, we've seen it before. In battle I can use one wind and I'll be still fine, I'll still be a ninja. I use another wind and nope, go back to this class. And here, it can either be a good thing or a bad thing. Because you can play around with this, you can be like, oh, I'm gonna use the djinni on purpose to bump down a class, because this class, I don't know, this class has a Planet Diver. I want to use Planet Diver, then I will summon, I'll get this djinni back, I'll get my stats back, and I'll get this thing again, I don't know. Like, there are some things you can do with this, more so in the second game, because in Golden Sun 1, not really, but when you go in the second game, you can do some weird things, like going down a class on purpose to get a certain thing, then you go back up, because you lose the party heals, but you get like a revive. But then you go up a class, and then you'll lose the revive, but you'll get the party heals again, and then you can do some stuff with those. you can play around with it. And you can do those things while you're using the djinnis, and you'll set up summons for later. It's very fun. But again, you gotta be very careful, because you will lose a lot of statistics. Like, even if I use this, look at this, no, not this, but let's say I do this. Look at all the stats I lose. I lose a lot of stats. The penalties are even worse than what we've seen in the Dualelemental. So you need to be very careful on what you're using. However, let's see, for example, I'll give you back water for a sec. Let's give you back water. No, wait, I said give you back water. I like that. Let's see one for you. See the wind one. Let me go the water one. So what do you get? That's fine. right? No, because we need one more water, which we don't have. So yeah, there we go. So he can get a dragon if you want. So he cannot get, because Isaac can be in duel, but we don't have enough water to have guardian duel as well. We can have wind though on him. We have enough to do that, so we will do wind, wind and wind. He can be a ninja. There he is. He's now a ninja. And what we can do, for example, we can have Ivan do this. And he can be a ranger, which has some offensive synergies. Water resist kind of suck, but you know, that's there. But it's got some three element water up synergy. And just for the record, Mia has Ball, Flesh Bone, Phosphorus Sphere. She got some heals. She's got the Revive, which she doesn't have in the Monoelemental. See, you can play around with it quite a bit. And because the djinni are so spread out, pulling out level 4 summons becomes very easy. One can do one for turn 1, Phase and Sleet, turn 2, Mist, Spirits, or rather, in this class, well, Isaac is super slow in this class. We can do Quartz, Flint, turn 1, turn 2, Vine, Granite, and immediately pulls out a level 4. Like that. You gotta be careful because you will go down classes, but the summons can come up real fast. If you plan your way well, your summons will come out real fast. And obviously you've got to protect the adepts that are actually going to be lower down classes, because right now, yeah, Gary is an enchanter and Mia is back to this class, which doesn't have any eels to begin with. So again, just be careful. Be careful and protect the ones that are using the djinnis. But other than that, they're very solid classes. I really recommend them for endgame. They are meant for endgame because you need 6 djinni minimum to even get these classes. But they're very good. That pretty much wraps it up. There's not much else to say. I will give you an idea on what the Trielementals are, but I mean, sorry, the Tetralemental or item dependent are. These require something like this. I can't even show it right now because you need more djinnis, but like something like this. 2, 2, and 2 would give me. Actually, you start like this. You start with 1 djinni for each element that is not the Adepts element, and then you level up every time you get 1 for each element. So this would give me the level 2, and then the third would be 3 djinni of water, 3 djinni of fire, 3 djinni of wind. That's super easy to understand, but it's called item dependent because you also need a certain item to enable that class. Because if I do this right now, it's just a ruffian. The game sees the fire and it just goes fire. This is the fire Dualelemental now. Okay, because if I take out a fire, if I take out a fire, the game says, oh, now it says water, so it's like, this is the water Dualelemental. Take out a water, oops, take out a water. Now the game says, oh, there's a lot of wind, so now we're in the wind elemental dual class. Take out a wind, guess what? Now fire is up, so fire, we get fire Dualelemental. And it just keeps going like this. And if you think you can fool the game and do some weird stuff like that, there are no like 4 elemental classes like this, or with a like you cannot like put 4 djinni of one color, of like different colors, and be like, oh, like this, and that's gonna work. No, that's just gonna set to a Dualelemental. Right now we're a swordsman. This is the water Dualelemental. That takes precedence. We take this out. What we got? That's the wind. Take the wind out. You get the fire. Take the fire out. You got your Monoelemental again. Hopefully that gave you an idea of how classes progress in this game. And again, really, do what you want. There are definitely good classes with good stats, okay? But the gist of it is, there are no bad classes. Every class has pros and cons. Just do whatever you feel like is better. Maybe you can like change classes before a boss. If you know like there's a boss weak fire, you can put Ivan and You can put Ivan and Gar in their Dualelemental class, which says Planet Diver, and use that over and over. Pretty good strat. I kind of suggest it if you like doing something like that. Try them out and see how they work. We played this whole game in Monoelemental, and I said I was going to do that to show you the ins and outs in game. On the second game, I'll be more free. I will use dual and I will use 3 as soon as I get them, because they're good. We'll do something a bit more. We'll do more variety on the second game, because we have a lot more. We have a different situation there. You'll see when we get there, but we'll be able to play around with dual and Trielemental a lot more. But as of now, this was my class explanation video. Hopefully it was exhaustive, clear. Hopefully it explained well how I would set up classes for you. And I will see you in the next video.